Quilts, texture, pattern, and rhythm. An American quilt. This quilt has a motif of triangles and squares. You can also see where the participants in making the quilt signed their names and wrote messages. The word quilt is derived from the Latin quiltsita, meaning a padded and tied mattress similar to a Japanese futon. Quilting is a needlework technique involving 2 or more layers of fabric, usually sandwiched with padding of some sort, stitched together in a decorative pattern. The oldest surviving quilt is thought to be this wedding quilt from Italy, done in the trapunto style, showing scenes from the Tristan legend. It was made around 1360. Also in the 12th century, crusaders traveling to the Holy Lands saw quilting used as a protective element on clothing in northern Africa. Heavy garments of quilted cotton cloth stuffed with kapok were widely used as armor for horse and man. Quilted clothing began to appear in European fashion in the 14th century, with quilted doublets and armor appearing in France, Germany, and England, and quilted tunics in Italy. The quilt as we know it in America was originally a utilitarian article born of the necessity of providing warm covers for beds. Quilts were also used as hangings for doors and windows that were not sealed well enough to keep out the cold. They were simply several blankets or sheets sewn together and not decorative. In the USA, we find 3 basic types of quilts. The applique quilt, shown here. You can see applique is an art of sewing smaller pieces of fabric onto a larger background. This is a decoration technique. Whole cloth quilts, such as this redwork quilt, have cotton batting sandwiched between linen sheets and are embroidered on the top layer. In the colonial USA, only the wealthy had time to do decorative quilting or embroidery. Women had to spin wool and flax into thread and then weave it into cloth, so they didn't have a lot of time for decorative arts. However, when the move west began in the 1800s, necessity made women sew together leftover patches of old cloth or grain sacks and torn and used clothing, and the patchwork quilt was born. Today, quilts are an art form, a medium for expression. Motifs play an important role in the art of quilting. A pattern is created when a motif repeats. Here, the motif is a circle. Here are some things you might want to research on your own. G's Bend quilts, Faith Ringgold, and American patchwork quilts. Our assignment. Take a piece of 18 by 24 paper and make a border around it with a pencil. I recommend no smaller than 2 inches but no bigger than 4 inches. Choose a theme for your quilt. Will it be an applique design, an art quilt, or a patchwork quilt? Remember to use a motif and create a pattern in your work by repeating the motif. Then draw your design out very lightly on your paper with a number 2 or harder pencil. Next, go over your design with melted wax using a janting tool. Color in your quilt with watercolor, being sure to create a variety of patterns. Be sure to choose a color scheme for your work before you begin painting. When the paint is dry, place a new clean piece of paper on top of your work and iron over it, creating the wax image on the new piece of paper. Then put your painted work between several layers of newspaper and iron out the remaining wax.